There is only one consciousness, one field. We can identify fields within the field, separate individual consciousnesses within consciousness. But ultimately, there's just one. And we are that. It's really that simple. And yet, not so simple to live. Simple to understand conceptually. And to experience at times, especially when we do Qigong. And we feel ourselves dissolving that separate, limiting consciousness into that one unity consciousness. That's what Qigong really is. It's a constant dissolving of the mental construct of separation, of lack. So what we want to do during our practice and during our lives is to embrace everything that we have separated out. Everything. The pain, the suffering, the fear, the anger. Many of you who've been to retreats with me have heard me quote that Rumi poem about the guest house. Our body is like a guest house, and it's visited by all these experiences. The mean thought, the old fear. All of it needs to be welcomed. All of it needs to be invited back home. In shamanic work, we talk about soul retrieval and soul loss. And it's almost like these parts of ourselves get split off. It's a very innocent process, mechanism that happens. Just imagine, just before you were born, you were the Qi baby. And I'm going to ask Stephanie to put this picture up so you can take a look at the Qi baby. This is the baby you were before you were a baby, before you took form. This is your infinite potential. This is completeness, wholeness. All the possibilities are here. You came in to this life as this, undamaged, whole. And the truth is that this blueprint is undamageable. It simply gets overlaid, veiled by conditioning. So the very first time that you felt fear. There was a contraction. And it was a completely innocent mechanism. You were doing it instinctively to protect yourself. But the problem is that then there was another fear and another one. And then you began to make mental constructs around those fears. Oh, that was bad. Oh, that was wrong. And these became beliefs. Some of them very unconscious. And this is how the Chi baby, this divine blueprint that you carry, that you actually are, became veiled. But it's there. That's the important thing to remember. Your mind may say, but I have no experience of that. Actually, you do. You've had glimpses, you've had moments when the mind has been quiet, when those mental constructs have dropped away, even if just for a moment, and you've felt one with everything. That was when you were remembering. That's when you were in touch with the underlying reality of yourself. This is yourself. We're going through an extraordinary time in evolution. Consciousness is evolving. Or I should say, humanity is evolving, because consciousness actually is always the same. It's always this vast, open, spacious, cherishing love. And why do I call it love? If consciousness is neutral, there's this vast space that's accepting everything just as it is. And we are that. Why call it love or joy or peace? Because when we truly feel ourselves as this one unity consciousness, there's freedom. There's no sense of lack or separation. We are experiencing our shared being, this beingness, which is shared. We're all that. And that is the experience of love, not the feeling, not the emotion that we usually identify as love. Love is shared being. It's when we recognize that we are each other. That's real love. And it's peace because there's nothing that's lacking. There's nothing that you could possibly grasp for. You feel completely fulfilled. You feel at peace. And the joy It's not the jump out of your skin kind of joy. It's more like a deep sense of contentment. Again, nothing is lacking. Nothing can be added to make it better. So what's happening on the planet right now is, up until really quite recently, in terms of the whole history of the evolution of this planet and humanity, it's very recent. There were only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, or, I mean, it feels like you could count up on our hands the number of people who realized their true nature. And then suddenly, it seems like it was really suddenly, there was an explosion of people interested, traveling to the East, to the cultures that had cultivated awareness of their consciousness. And then the internet. And now we have access to all these wisdom traditions and teachings. And so many of us are waking up. It's a journey. It's not a destination. There's always more wakefulness. In that sense, consciousness is evolving. We're going deeper and deeper. It's getting more and more powerful because there's more and more individual consciousnesses who are realizing they are the one unity consciousness. And more of us are strongly intending to live as the presence of pure consciousness, aware of being aware. So what we're doing is no longer attaching so much importance, value to our mental constructs. All those opinions and assumptions and beliefs, we're recognizing them as conditioned patterns, some of them passed on for generations by ancestors. Some of the fear and hatred in the world has just simply gone down the generations and unconsciously being lived out. I remember when I studied with Angela Sarian, the most wonderful cultural anthropologist who was a real shaman. She took us on long vision quests. We did year-long trainings with her. The one thing that stood out for me the most in all of her teaching was she would say, the ancestors are standing behind you and they are saying, maybe this will be the one, will dissolve the harmful family patterns. Maybe this will be the one. And the first time I heard that, I wasn't sure even quite what it meant, but I felt this thrill go through me. And I knew I wanted to be the one. There are many of us now who've made the commitment to end those harmful family patterns now, with this generation, with us. So we have this huge awakening happening all across the planet at the same time as things look really dire for the survival, certainly of humanity, and perhaps many parts of the planet for thousands, if not millions of years. These two things are happening at the same time. The destruction and the awakening. I think it's worth remembering that so much has been changing, and very fast, in terms of equality. We're not there yet, that's clear. But when you think of where we were even 10 years ago, in terms of how we treated those of us who are different, things are changing, and they're changing fast. And I'm sure you've all noticed that everything is changing very, very fast. We have to upgrade our iPhones faster and faster as more and more information, more and more technology comes in. And that exponential growth, exponential time, things going faster and faster, that is happening with the awakening too. So how can we contribute the most effectively? Notice when you are in a mental construct, when you are living from a mental construct. Most people, many people, I shouldn't say most, that's changing, but many people live as a mental construct. They meet someone and immediately they're judging them, instead of just meeting heart to heart. So one way that I find it really quick is to notice when I'm in judgment, notice when I'm in a mental construct, and energetically move my energy down from the brain to the heart. And then breathe into the heart, opening up the heart, expanding that energy until my energy, my heart's energy, is merged with the field, merged with the other person or whatever it was that I was separating out from. coming back into that shared being, the presence of love, and living from there. That's a very helpful practice to adopt. At the same time, it's not enough. Because many of our mental constructs are not conscious. These beliefs have become part of our bodies. Our body is our unconscious mind. So a great deal of fear and anger and grief is held in our bodies. In the lower part of the body, these lower centers. So the pure consciousness program that Ming Tong is now teaching online and also at retreats, it pulls that energy out of the lower part of the body, up through the higher energy centers, the heart, the throat, through the center of the brain, the top of the head. And coincidentally, there are many other teachers teaching this same practice in slightly different ways. I've mentioned Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza before. And he teaches a certain breath that draws the energy out of those lower centers, up the spine, and out through the top of the head, activating the pineal gland. The pineal gland creates serotonin, the daytime transmitter, neurotransmitter, and melatonin, the nighttime neurotransmitter. And when we pull the energy out of the body, up to the pineal gland, there are little crystals in the pineal gland that get activated. And the pineal gland begins to create metabolites of those transmitters. Taking you beyond the past, beyond being matter, identifying as matter, becoming energy and pure consciousness, connecting with the quantum field, which is pure consciousness, which is pure potential. And we then can create whatever it is that we want to create. The ultimate is to know yourself as the presence of divine love. There's another teacher I've recently found on YouTube, wonderful YouTube, called Wim Hof, who does a breathing practice which is very similar to Dr. Joe Dispenza's. So all of these teachers have found these ways, which are all very similar, of pulling these old unconscious mental constructs which literally have structured our bodies into blocks of energy, keeping us dense, keeping us separate, keeping us in that sense of lack, and pulling that energy up through the body to the top of the head, merging with the quantum field. So you're no longer living life through your senses, believing your senses. You're living your life as awareness, aware that you are aware. As Dr. Joe Dispenza likes to say, first of all, we think we're somebody. Then we find that we're nobody. Then we discover we're everybody. And we can be anybody. And we're doing this by raising our vibration out of the density of matter in of awareness. And there was a gentleman called Dr. David Hawkins, who some of you may have read. He wrote a book called Power versus Force. And he calibrated the levels of consciousness and discovered that anything under the level of 200 was really dense, where you find guilt and anger and fear and very unconscious. 540, which I wrote about a little bit in my newsletter, that vibration is the vibration of unconditional joy and love. So when I invited you to join the 540 Vibe Tribe, there isn't an actual physical organization to join. I'm sorry I wasn't more clear. We're part of the tribe when we set our intention to vibe at that level and then do our work. So I'd like to do a little bit of the breathing with you. So when we breathe in and we take a very deep breath in, we're going to squeeze the muscles at the base of our spine, the base of the body. Those muscles around the anus and the genitals. I'm going to squeeze them tightly as you draw your breath up from that area. You're pulling this old stuck energy from the past. Not necessarily just your past, your ancestors' past too. So you're having the intention to pull it out, up and out of the body. And as you draw the breath up, you want to follow with your mind up through the body and keep squeezing as much as you can. It takes a little time to get used to this way of doing the breathing. So don't worry if it all seems a bit much to begin with. It took me a while to sort of begin to get this. But you start breathing up, squeezing your genitals, and then squeezing your abdomen, the lower abdomen, the upper abdomen, and almost as though you could squeeze your spine as you go up through the chest, drawing the breath up through your throat, up through the brain to the top of the head, and then hold it. And then release. Release and relax completely all the way down. So let's do that again. Sitting upright as much as you can, unless you're lying down, in which case you can still lie down, but keep your spine as straight as possible. What you're doing is you're pulling this energy up. You're pulling up the spinal fluid in your spine. You're pulling it up through the spinal cord, up, up, up. You're squeezing, squeezing, putting pressure on the pineal gland. Your mind goes to the top of the head. You hold it. And then release. Okay, let's do it again. Drawing in your breath and squeezing from the bottom all the way up. Hold it. And then release. There's a question about what to do when you release the breath, what visualization? No visualization, just completely relax. Just let the whole body relax. You probably will naturally feel the energy coming down, but don't guide it, don't do anything, just let it be. You've made the effort. The effort is in pulling this energy up to the top of the head. So let's do it again. And squeezing and breathing in at the same time, all the way up. Hold it. Relax. And again, breathing in, squeezing. Holding. Relax. One more time. Breathing in, squeezing. Tighter, tighter, tighter. Holding it. And letting go. I've got a question about how does the pineal gland get activated if you're bringing the breath to the top of the head? It's going through the area of the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and the hypothalamus are all in the same area. And they all get this pressure activation as the breath goes up. But you want to imagine the top of your head at the very end. And you know, just play with this, because I'm kind of putting together several people's work, actually. This is what's been working for me. If you go online on YouTube, you can find Wim Hof, WIMHOF. You can find a 10-minute video and a 15-minute video of him leading through. His is a little different to Dr. Joe Dispenza's. And then you also can find something with Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about the breathing and giving a demonstration.